Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Lageman. I was a clinical psychologist for 23 years, and I'm a commissioner for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. I want to talk to you about a bill that's rapidly moving through Congress. It is a Trojan horse bill. It's the 21st Century Cures Act, and its stated intention is to speed the approval of drugs and devices to save lives, basically. But it includes fast-tracking psychiatric drugs and brain devices, which I talk about on another video. But fast-tracking psychiatric drugs. There are already 25 psychiatric drugs on the market that are known to cause violence, known by the drug makers to cause violence. There's an active ongoing investigation into the role of psychiatric drugs in military suicides. There are 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. There was a huge increase in psychiatric drugs in the military, and following that, there were a lot of problems. There are thousands of lawsuits across the country about birth defects, and the drug makers are losing on these lawsuits because they knew about the damages in the clinical trials and covered them up. I'm going to give you some examples of this. There are over 600 lawsuits right now about a particular heart defect that the drug makers knew and covered. There are over 1,200, this is Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, the maker of a drug called Risperdal. There are over 1,200 lawsuits across the country right now on a bizarre adverse effect, which is of young boys developing full-on female breasts. It's called gynecomastia. They are losing these lawsuits because they knew this. They saw it in the clinical trials and they downplayed it, and now families are having to go to court with their adolescent boys and show pictures and to get compensation for this. These are, young adolescent boys that need double mastectomies. There are many, many things like this that I could tell you about. There is absolutely no justification for fast-tracking psychiatric drugs with the amount of damage and corruption that's gone on already. The drug companies, the psychiatric drug companies, have had to pay, within the last 10 years, they've had to pay over $16 billion in federal, criminal, and civil fines for a couple of things. One, falsifying studies to make it look like a drug was effective when it wasn't. Two, covering up damages that they knew in the clinical trials, and then marketing issues like fraudulent marketing. Okay, so they have a vested interest in this bill and removing clinical trials, because this is how the bill would fast track the approval of drugs. It removes the need to do clinical trials. So if there are no clinical trials, then they're not at risk anymore. They can't be found guilty of falsifying data and covering up damages. They don't need to. There'd be no clinical trials to deal with. So it's very important that psychiatric drugs be excluded from this bill, and that you write your senator, your representative, to make that point. And in another video I will have up on the site how you do that, and I'll make it easy for you so that you can follow that and do it. Thank you.